usually if you go first and then maxi your opponent, that's like complete auto-win territory. You've gone first, you won the coin flip, you got to do some kind of a combo, maybe they stopped some of it, maybe they didn't. Maybe you have a board, a full board, maybe a little bit of a half board, and you maxi them? I thought this would be like 80% or something like that. Could be a brick, could be passing on nothing. So, interesting. The win rate of the turn 1 player when they either do not activate maxi or it gets negated. 1%. No resolution. Wow, that is a big dip on this year's tournament, 2025. Look at that. So the win rate of not resolving maxi going second, massive dip from the previous. Didn't resolve maxi. 24, 23. We're still like somewhere just under 40% win rate. Now it's like under 30. That is crazy. The win rate of the turn 2 player when their maxi resolves was only 47%. The win rate of the turn 2 player when they either do not activate maxi or it got negated was the 20% that we saw here, which is absolutely ludicrous. Kind of just like repeating some of the main points here. Let's focus on the graphs here. Turn 2 win rate based on the Mulch Army resolution. Mulch Army resolution going second was just under 40% win rate versus 30% when it didn't resolve. Dual loss by itself contributed to a 10% increase in win rate, just by itself. We got Dominus here. If the Dominus player activates it at least once, their win rate went down? Interesting stat.
Whoa.
I guess, like, Dominus is not a card for going first, so that makes sense. Whereas the turn 2 player, the Dominus resolution barely increased their win rate. This is like less than 5% we're looking at. Dominus, not exactly the broken cards going second, but even Fool Lost was a 10% win rate increase just for resolving Fool Loss over Maxi. But Maxi's 27% win rate when it resolves against you is disgusting, so that is ridiculous. Take a look at some. I have no idea.
Did I just realize this deck isn't playing any pieces?
Turn 1 win rate,
Wait, it is. It's playing one piece.
Turns ended
The
so
one
fast
piece.
and in the turn 1 player's favor to the point that 155 games out of 264 ended on turn 3. You cannot surrender in the WCS games. You can tell most of these irregular ranked or rated game. Is that actually true? You're not allowed to scoop, or that you just shouldn't scoop, giving you more information on your opponent's deck? Not allowed to scoop? I mean, I feel like at the World Championship, you shouldn't scoop anyway. Like, you just shouldn't scoop. Even if you could. But apparently they disable that in the client, that's right. I'd like to point out, though, that this is caused by the shared card rule that tightens up the amount of hand traps that each player uses. Maxi horrendously works with the shared card rule in general. But the shared card rule cannot be underestimated as to its impact in a game. Win rate for going second might look really bad, but you need to understand as well that the amount of hand traps that the going second players have in their deck is going to be less than what you would have in ranked games. You know, you aren't limited by not being able to Valor and Imperm your ranked deck if you want, right? You can play those cards in ranked. But in the World Championship, if you play Valor or Imperm, 2 of your teammates can't. That's going to have a pretty big effect on the win rate of going second. You can't use a bunch of
I feel like I'm supposed to have 2 pieces. I sure fucking should be.
Shared by any team. Pretty important card.
Because it's pretty stupid to only have 1 piece.
Help going second a lot, and Master Duel World Championship is going to skew that data a lot because don't have access to those cards. Shared card rule. Number of maxis went down from last year.
You know what?
Maxi getting semi-limited. Made it so that not a lot of C's resolve for the turn 2 player, reducing any effect in helping them have a fairer chance of winning. What surprised me is that although not significantly different, the turn 1 player win rate goes down by resolving maxi. It's a new trend that has not occurred in the past 2 years. Shared card rule limited the amount of hand traps. The turn 1 player could not draw enough
them are here.
For the turn player 2 could just kill them in a turn.
Basically, wait, what?
It was better to have more starters than having a card that you won't.
It's because it costs 3, and I guess they don't show if you can't
decks are just not
activate.
Right?
Alright, fair enough, I guess.
Really have, like, starters, 2.5 starters in Malice, your normal summon,
I do like the
Malice and Underground,
cheapies,
and a
but
Lure of Darkness potentially. Right? So if your opponent has a way to like stop any one or two of those,
yeah,
like kind of
ridiculous amount of alt arts
gonna just
here.
have to pass, right? You activate Max C on turn 2, and your opponent just kills. There's Gold Sark, yeah. Gold Sark's at 1. Uh, yeah, maybe, I don't know, last year, what was the meta last year? There was just like way more starters for that deck. Um, Decks this year aren't as consistent. Another interesting part of Maxi is how consistent it is at making the turn 2 player have a 50-50 game. Though the win rate of the turn 2 player drops significantly, Maxi does its job as much as last year. The turn 2 player Maxi is now more effective. 76% boosted win rate is insane though, mind you not. That is a power level unseen. What Konami is going to look at and justify keeping Maxi, by the way. Like this right here. This is what is deciding factor for why Maxi is balanced and healthy. Because it boosts your going second win rate by 76. And absolutely ridiculously,
Mm. Okay,
the turn 1 player's win rate goes down by resolving Maxi. As far as Konami are concerned, this is what they're going to take forward for why Maxi should stay in the game. What's the biggest argument against Maxi? You make a board, you pass, and then you Maxi your opponent. How do you beat that? Well, according to the World Championship stats,
I don't
doesn't
get
happen.
how often I draw
So,
these things. Seriously,
crazy.
can you guys
But if you
not?
resolve it going second successfully, a 76% boost your win rate occurs. Okay? That's just a lie. There's no way. Yeah, this guy's lying. All Charmy cards did look somewhat effective, but not significantly. Put all the Charmies together because of the sample size and Curse You shared card rule. Top 2 decks had different Charmy weaknesses. Our Charmies overall seemed less effective than they could have been. Yeah, that's very skewed. Now we're looking at the effectiveness of like Meowls and Fuba versus some decks. If I were to add my opinion, I'd say chopping up Mall Charmy's effects this much was not really the
Summon
right way.
Bernices in the
Whoa!
center
Whoa, 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 whoa.
and turn.
Ominous Impulse being this
Doodle.
disappointing is
Ah!
Urge with Impulse stats specific Impulse.
40 card deck, up to 4 copies.
Where's the
I
impulse
think
stats? Is it
this kind of hand is just
Oh,
to
there
be
it is. The win
expected.
rate of the turn 1 player with no Dominus Impulse, 70%, whereas it goes when they activate it at least once. For turn 2,
This is actually
if
really
you
bad,
resolve
but like
Dominus
it's still
Impulse,
worth it
it goes from
anyway.
30 to
Since
32% win rate.
getting to level 2
That's
really
like
fast is
insignificant,
super good.
pretty much, right? Impulse basically just anything. Wow. Conclusion, it seems to me like Maxi is the last band-aid that keeps the game in the shape of an actual game. So many issues that need to be solved before touching Maxi, which might as well just be shifting to the Escoban list, banning every fucking card that feels stronger than a Grandma with a smooth. I took some time to write this up because I want to see how the OCG side acted first. I put all this information in Japanese and had almost 420k views at this point. They're split, but I feel like more people are leaning towards banning Maxi than years. Maxi and turn 1 win rates continue to be a hot topic in this globally. Last, thanks so much for reading this hilarious mess of thoughts. I know it was long as fuck, but I have no clue. Let's do you. Maxi Defender? Well,
In
I think
fucking
that this person is coming
2025.
across as a Maxi Defender because they are literally only looking at numbers. Fair enough, because this is a statistical analysis, right? If you only look at the numbers, value judgment aside, when you see a card that gives 72% boost going second, on paper, that sounds good. That card should be in the game at maximum copies, right? Until you realize that it's Maxi and how it affects going first. Ironically enough, despite going first, Maxi didn't really help win rate that much. That was the craziest conclusion that they got here. What surprised me is that although not significantly different, the turn 1 player's win rate goes down by resolving Maxi. Yeah, this is purely from a raw statistical discussion.
I mean, Max, as
Yeah,
frustrating as it is,
let's read some
that
comments.
unlike
Even if C makes
Molcharmi,
going
Max is
second more viable
playable
than any
turn
other
1.
card, it doesn't
Max
promote how
C is a
game
dead
playing is
card if you draw it
exactly,
turn 1.
right?
If you draw
So,
it going
if
first.
you look at it purely
You know,
from the
because you'd
perspective of numbers,
rather
Maxi
want
seems really
that
good
be another hand
because it's
trap,
helping the go second
another
player. But you need to ask yourself,
extender,
okay,
or another,
Maxi helps you going
starter.
second. but at what cost? Cost is end up with terrible non-gains, right? Because like if you thought Maxi, what's your like the detonator pass? Any normal deck with 6 cards should be able to detonator pass, right? And they did. Oh. Maxi doesn't discourage players from combo decks, and it's not doing its job. It is just restricting deck building, forcing every deck to play the 6 outs, even against the Charmies like Memento. Maxi in these decks would be replaced by a different strong going second card. A top comment from Macedo Meta that isn't dead. How? That means nothing. All due respect, the problem with Maxi is win rate going first and second being generic and ruin deck building. Let's not forget that is a small
And our
research
defense
tournament with
choices are
decks that we
really
know going to
bad.
be with some of the best players in the world. If this is the argument for Pro Maxi, it is completely nonsense. I think this person is jumping the gun a little bit. I don't think this person is like defending Maxi. I think they're just playing off of the numbers. They aren't
Oh
really
shit,
giving
this is an
a
awesome
discussion
life burst effect.
about Maxi from a sort of line perspective. Mostly, they're just looking at it from a numbers perspective. You're gonna relax your. I think you made several errors in representing data that prevents it from being legitimate for a conversation on Maxi's impact. Bundle together the stats for Maxi not being activated by the turn 2 player and the turn 2 player's Maxi being negated. Bundle together the stats for Maxi not being activated by the turn 2 player and the turn 2 player's Maxi being negated.
Yeah, it
So
should.
you mask the impact of the turn 2 player effectively getting hand dripped and starting their turn with one less card to use as hand trap or play into a board. Oh, interesting. Yeah, those are different scenarios that probably should be together.
Yeah,
What are the arguments against
I
Maxi
don't
is that going
agree
first
with.
plays even more favorable than able to
It
negate a
should just
Maxi, so
be
would have
if
been more
they
interesting to
drew
see the stats
Maxi
from
or if
this.
they didn't,
The
rather than
impact of drawing Ash as a hand
if
trap
they
is left out
still
of the
drew
stats entirely.
if they still
One of
drew
the biggest issues
Maxi
with
but it
Maxi
got
existing is
negated,
that it necessitates
being
players to use
clustered
Ash even when it comes
alongside
to
not
playing with the
drawing it
top
at all,
strategies.
it's just
An issue doubtless exacerbated
that's
when teams have to
not
choose it as a
not
shared
how
card.
math
I
works.
think it
That's
would be
not
very
how
interesting to see
statistics
stats of how
work.
going second win rate changes when the turn 2 player draws Ash instead of a better hand trap.
Wait, do I
I take
do
issue
have
with you
servant.
concluding that sentiment that Maxi is like the last band-aid that keeps the shape of an actual game.
Servant's a really hard card to
There's a prevalent
use.
issue these days, not just in UK
At
but
the
also in the
very
realm of
least,
political thought that numbers
my
and stats
knowledge
mean
of hand
everything.
traps has
Going first
given me
versus
enough
second win
knowledge
rate
to know
beating
that
out when Maxi results
it's
isn't
a good
necessarily a
idea
good
to
thing.
not
Again,
activate
just
it
to
willy nilly,
reiterate, right?
or
Like
put
Maxi
it on your
increasing win rate
field.
going second
Is objectively a bad
is good on
idea.
paper. That doesn't mean Maxi is a healthy card because again, you have to ask yourself like, so what if Yu-Gi-Oh
I
had a
can
card
mill
where you
myself
draw, I'm going
further.
second, then it's a Thursday and your opponent's wearing a black T-shirt, activate it, discard it to the graveyard, you win the game. That helps going second, doesn't it? That sound like fun, interactive, interesting play? No. That's why you can't just look at numbers. What matters
Sure,
most is
let's
the
put it on the
quality of the
field
games people
immediately.
are playing. This is something you can't measure mathematically. You just have to like observe and
I
see
could have
what games are like when
summoned
Maxi is involved and when Maxi isn't
Fragrach
involved. Are duels
and
more interesting
vanished.
with Maxi or without Maxi?
Oh
I think
well.
most normal people with a sentient pulse and brain would be able to all agree that it is better or more interesting there isn't Maxi involved. There's plenty I could say that the idea that there's so many issues that need to be solved before touching Maxi, just this notion about the impact of turn 2 player getting hand dripped by Ash called by crossout, making combo boards build out of the teeth, being a well-adjusted format, being on releases combo enablers, people with sentiment with point as it needing to be done first. Ultimately, though, I hope you read and address the point I made as your point garnered a lot of attention, maybe doing more harm than good. Alright, well, these are good points by both people here. Again, I don't think this was. Maybe he gave too much opinion and stuff here. He did sort of say, like, in my opinion, and just that maybe aren't really that should be gone from stats. Yeah, caveat, very important to note. While stats and stuff of this are thing and worth discussing, and definitely a healthy part of discussion, we're talking about these type of things. It's also important to note that still a very small sample size, a couple hundred. This is still a small sample size. And second of all, it's a very, very, very unique format. It is the World Championship shared card 3 versus 3 environment where people can anti-meta deck pick for each other, specific scenarios,
Well,
and
level
etc.
zeros
etc.
don't
Right?
count
So
as Elrigs,
that's going to significantly
I
affect the
guess.
how the numbers play out in reality.
The earlier we activate these the sooner we can get access to our high impact cards. And of other twos are we playing? How are we already allowed to grow to level 2? It's actually crazy. Eh, dang it. The graveyards are second hand. can fulfill the conditions. Oh, sleepy. You know what? I really do need to sleep.